Damn, I thought I would be able to talk about it more or better. Right, I'm kind of scared, not gonna lie. Hey guys, my name is Victoria, welcome back to my channel. I moved you guys a bit closer because today is a storytime video. In one of my most recent vlogs, I asked you guys if you wanted a story time of, I don't know, my journey, I guess, with ballet, why I had to quit dancing, and also all about my eating disorder and my body dysmorphia, which I never really talked about on this channel because it's very personal. It's very hard for me to talk about. I've been ignoring it for the past 2 years, and this year it kind of came back. And from all the things that I'm dealing with in my head, I think my eating disorder is definitely the thing that I struggle with the most. I'm very optimistic when it comes to my depression and my anxiety. That doesn't apply to my ED or my body dysmorphia because I never lived a day without it. I don't know if it's ever gonna go away. But this video is not to make people hopeless and to tell my sob story. I am more positive than I've ever been, and I've been good. I've been stable. I've been thinking about telling the story for months because it is so personal, and sometimes I feel like I'm an open book and I feel like I tell you guys almost everything. I feel like this is a story that I have to tell, not for anyone else's purposes because I don't have that much of an influence, but also for me, and you'll get that in the end of this video, at the end of the story, because that's the point now. So I will not spoil you guys, stay and listen to the story. I am, for the first time in my life, confronting my eating disorder now, and it's very scary, and I am hopeful, but you know, it's something that I am clueless about, and something that comes from a place with a lot of pain. So I'm here to share my pain. And I don't know, I feel like this small kind of community and in you guys' comments, you give me so much strength and hope, and you guys are just great. I always feel very welcomed and understood by you guys, and I hope this video is here to spread awareness of mental health. Yeah, I think I'm just going to start because this video is going to be long. Get yourself a cup of tea or coffee or hot chocolate or whatever. I don't want to make anyone sad. I know it's like Christmas. It's not the most positive of videos. I want to be part of, you know, breaking that stigma around mental health, and I don't want to be part of that conversation, and no one should be forced to share their struggles with anyone. I feel like I'm a person that is able to sort of, again, be part of that conversation and make it less taboo and make it more open and make it normal, because I've been struggling for years until I've realized that I was sick, until I realized that I was in a very, very, very bad place, and I wish that I would have seen more people talk about it. I also want you guys to know that I'm trigger warning this video. I'm going to talk about my eating disorder. I'm going to talk about anorexia and bulimia in general, whether I'm diagnosed with that, whether I've had that. I just want you guys to know that I will talk about these things. I will talk about body dysmorphia. I will talk about very bad eating habits. I will talk about ballet in general. So, you know, sometimes that's traumatic for people. I will talk a lot about that and childhood trauma. So if these topics are sensitive topics for you, please don't watch this video. I don't want to trigger anyone. I'm trying to keep it as little detail as possible when it comes to like what I did and sort of what habits I've had, because I don't want anyone to copy, because I did that. I will not talk about numbers. I will not talk about how much I weighed and how much I ate in a day or calories. I will not talk about very specific numbers, but I will talk about the whole thing in general. So if this is triggering for you, please don't watch this video. I don't want to cause any harm. This is not my intention with this video. I think this is it for the intro. I know this was very long, but it's very important for me, for you guys to know that I'm aware of the sensitivity when it comes to that topic. Let's start. I have my little book here, so I'm trying to remember everything. I'm probably gonna forget things. And again, this is such a multifaceted topic that it's impossible to tell it in an hour or something, but you know, I'm trying. I'm gonna try. I was 4 years old when I started dancing. I started in a very like classical sort of school. From the start, it was clear that that was never gonna be a professional hobby of mine or any like leading to a profession, not at all. It was 1 hour a week. It was just for fun. My parents knew that, my sisters knew that, I knew that, my teacher knew that. It was never intended for me to be like a professional dancer, ever. Nevertheless, I loved it. I fell in love with ballet the second I stepped into that room. I loved the discipline, I loved the way of moving, I loved everything about it. It was like magic. It was love at first sight. I remember when I got into school, learned math and shit. I remember adding up the years until I was able to get my point shoes, because for me, as someone who did this as a hobby, I couldn't start when I was 10 or something. I had to wait until I was 12 years old to get point shoes, and I think I was like 6, and I was like, oh my god, only 6 years until I could, you know, start dancing on point, and I was so excited, and it was the best thing in the world. Whenever me and my sisters went to the pediatrician, we did the whole checkup, and whenever I stood on the scale, my doctor told my parents, yeah, you have to watch her weight. I was so small, and I know for a healthy body and then you keep it healthy, but I wasn't big. In general, I just want you guys to know that this video is not intended to fat shame anyone, and if I show you pictures later where I tell you how awful I felt about my body and you think, but you were skinny and you look like that, I have body dysmorphia. If you don't know what body dysmorphia is a condition in which someone falsely believes that there is something wrong or seriously wrong with the size or shape of their body. I don't only have body dysmorphia, I also have like complete dysmorphia. Like, I don't see my face the way that you might see it. So just want you guys to know, I think all bodies are beautiful, and this is solely about myself. I don't want anyone to feel like I'm shaming their body when I say that I felt big in those pictures, because I've realized a lot of things now after those years. So I just want you guys to know, this whole thing is pathological. I have a pathological, like, distorted view of my body and my face. This is not intended to shame anyone's body, ever. You shouldn't make comments about anyone's body in general. If they lost weight, if they gained weight, doesn't matter. Let's continue. So my parents were told I had to watch what I ate when I was a little kid. Ever since I think I was conscious of my body and about my body, I knew that it wasn't good enough. I knew that I was bigger, and I always felt bigger, and I looked at my sister and some of my friends, and I thought, why am I not that skinny? And why do I look the way that I did? I was just a child. Children aren't supposed to think about their bodies as wrong. But I can't remember a time where I didn't think that way. I think I was, I don't know, 9 years old, first time where I asked my sister to help me diet. I was 9 years old. That is so messed up. I danced at that school for 3 to 4 years. It had to close. I started being conscious about other things, not only my body, but also like my teeth. I had a huge gap between my 2 front teeth, and I hated it. And the thing is, I didn't mind anything on other people's bodies or teeth, or if they had, like, I don't know, a skin condition, ever. I didn't care at all. But when it came to me, it was such a huge thing. So I think I was very young when I looked into the mirror and said, I have 2 issues, my teeth and my body, and I need to change that. I think I was around 10 at that time. But I remember this picture, I'm gonna insert it here, and when I look at it now, I see such a happy child. I'm so sad when I thought about it as a kid, because getting that picture back and then seeing it for the first time, I told myself I will never open my mouth again on a picture. I will never smile with my mouth open, because I hated my teeth so much. And then the next time we took such a picture, you can see that I kept that promise, and I would keep that promise for, I think, 10 years. I don't think there's a picture of me from the ages of 8 to 18, so 10 years, where I had my mouth open on pictures. I don't think that's a thing that happened in my life. I had to quit dancing because our school was broke, so it was done. I was so sad because I had to stop dancing. Right around that time, I was in 2nd grade then. In 2009 exactly, that's when I stopped dancing and got friends, or best friends, with a girl in my school. She danced at a different ballet school, and I watched some of their performances because their performances were always recorded on DVD, and I saw it, and I saw their costumes, and because I was like classically trained, I was used to those like tutus and like typical ballet outfits, and we did like swan lake. I watched their DVDs, and they had such fun costumes, and it just all looked so colorful, and they did not only teach ballet but also like hip-hop and jazz, and it was like a dancing school. It wasn't just ballet, and I was hyped. I want to go there. I told my mom, okay, I'm gonna go there. So my sister and I, we changed dancing schools. By the way, I forgot to mention that I danced with my sisters. My older sister started before me because she's 3 years older. But when we changed schools, only Marie and I would continue to dance. I got into new groups. We did one performance every 2 years in their local theater. It was such a big thing and I loved it. It was amazing. I think I switched groups 3 times until I got into the group that would remain my group. I always call it my group because it's the group that I was in, but like the group that I was in with the girls that I think would be together for 4 years. Not exactly sure. Of course, some people quit, some people came to it, but overall it was always sort of the same girls. It was just great. Then puberty hit. I hit puberty very early. I started like having and getting boobs when I was, I think, 11. I noticed a change about my body and I was devastated. After 2 years of dancing at that school, I changed to a secondary school, so to like high school. I wouldn't ever say that I got bullied because I was a very difficult kid. I loved like fighting with kids, like not physically fighting, but I was horrible. I got into every single discussion and then I was super annoying. I would even say that I'm annoying now, but I was very, very annoying as a kid and as a then teenager. But I remember people in my class calling me fat and I was like a confident kid. I was like, I don't care about your opinion and fuck you in a way. But I think now it did do something because I always remember them calling me like Big Mac Victoria because my name is Victoria. In German you say Victoria, and they just nicknamed my name with a Big Mac from McDonald's. I never ate a Big Mac in my life. Kids are cruel. When I had puberty, I got like my period when I was 12. It was very early, and I remember my body changing. I wasn't ever very big, but you know, I felt horrible. I started having acne when I was 13. And that was very, very bad for my self-esteem. So you remember that list I made in the mirror when I said, okay, I have 2 issues, my teeth and my body? My acne came to that. So then I said, okay, it was right around the time where I voiced that I wanted to be an actress. I just wanted to be known by everybody and be famous and successful. And it wasn't really about the art form, even though I knew that I loved theater and that I loved acting. But it was more like, I want as much attention as possible. I started watching a lot of women and girls on TV and in film. And I remember watching them and looking at them and I never saw myself. I never saw anyone with gap between the 2 front teeth, and I don't know, with the way that I looked. And then I had a project for a class and we made like a movie, and it was right around the time where my face started to change and I looked at my face in the camera and I remember that was such an awful day. I remember I started crying because my dream was crushed, or I thought my dream was crushed because I said I'm never gonna be able to be a successful actress because I'm too ugly. And that's when I started thinking, I'm too ugly, I'm too fat, I'm not good enough. The horrible thing was that the only thing that stopped me from pursuing that dream was superficial shit. It was just, I don't look good enough. My face is awful, I'm not photogenic at all, no one will hire me. It doesn't matter how much talent I have, I am too ugly. No one will choose me because I don't look the right way. So I thought, okay, I can't change my face, but I can change my body. And that's when I started saying every single summer, I think that started even earlier, saying, okay, this summer, 6 weeks, I'm gonna do like a full transformation. I'm gonna go into school, I'm gonna be skinny and everyone will look at me and I'm gonna be so proud of myself and I will finally be good enough. And that was the case for every single summer that continued. With every single summer, it's another year of every day, you know, eating. You have to eat food every single day. You know, I was in puberty. I ate so much. I still don't understand. I was able to eat that much like sugar. Fast forward to 2015, maybe. I had my boobs, I had my butt, I had my body, and I was unhappy. So I started saying, oh, I want to diet, I don't want to eat that much. It never worked because obviously my mom cooked, I was a kid. But it was always in the back of my head. And I always felt so bad whenever I ate. Didn't realize that that was not normal. We had a recital in 2016. Those recitals were so much fun because you had like months of preparation before that. You were with your group, you had to come in on weekends to train, and I loved it. I still don't understand why I didn't take more than 1 class. I don't understand why, but I only danced in my group and it was wonderful. I loved these girls. We were so close. I loved them all. I was very dedicated. I put a lot of work into it outside of training. I like did flexibility training at home, and I was very ambitious. Listen, I was a kid, I used to brag all the time. I was a huge bragger, okay? I admit that. I was horrible. I wanted to show everybody how amazing and talented I am. But I know that when I was like 13 or 12, I already knew about that tendency of mine, and I wanted to keep it as like low and little as possible. I didn't want anyone to think that I was like a bitch, or that I wanted them to feel bad, or that I wanted everyone to look at me and see how great I am. Dancing was fun, and I was good at it. It was a hobby. It was nothing professional. No one cared about how high you got your leg. I cared about that, but I only cared about my leg. So it was fun. It was lots of fun. And throughout the training, I had the best teacher. I loved my teacher. She was strict, but I was always good with strict people. I don't know. I guess it was because I was growing up with, you know, my dad around, and I just knew to be respectful and be dedicated and disciplined. So I was a good student. I had my fun throughout, you know, breaks. And then whenever my teacher counted 5, 6, 7, 8, I was like, okay, I'm here. I'm there. I am focused. And soon ballet became my happy place. When I was, I think, 12, I was so excited every week, and I counted the days until I would finally get back to class and have practice and training, and it was so much fun because I also wanted, you know, I wanted to be an actress. My teacher was always very enthusiastic about us doing like little sketches, and we were like the group that always got to do like extra work when it came to recitals then. Like we got to work out monologues and not only like tell a story with our body and with dancing, but also with our voice and our facial expressions. I don't know, I felt like the whole group had lots of fun doing that. Whenever a new recital came up, I think it was the recital in 2016, where my teacher asked, do you want to do more? And I was like, main part. The main parts, or the main characters and like protagonists or principals, I guess, some of them were teachers, so dancing teachers, dance instructors and choreographers at our school, and some of them were just really old friends and best friends from my teacher, because my teacher was also the head of the school, and she had to be able to count on those people. She had to be able to say, okay, you gotta come into the studio every single weekend and build this whole story. And then tell this whole story. Our ballet fairy tales were always like original from the head of the school, so from my teacher. One time we told a story about a lot of fairy tales, so we were all characters from fairy tales. The next performance was about our generation being online all the time, and my group, or the group that I was in, actually were the girls that were constantly online and always checking the phones, and it was like that. So I think that was the first performance where I let it slip that I would like to be like a main part. I came to every single practice, and I didn't get a main part that year, and I never actually thought that I would, because again, it was such a tight-knit group. It was really only people that my teacher trusted. I think 2016 was the year it kind of started with me having very disruptive thoughts about food. It continued to be like a problem that I completely ignored. I was like, I feel bad whenever I eat. Doesn't matter. I try to not eat as much, never works. I'm just gonna ignore it. So for the next 1.5 years, it would be good. We had a recital in 2016 in February. So the next year, in 2017, things got different. My group got a new teacher. And in the beginning, everyone was excited. He was young, he was starting his, I think, education as an educator, so dancing education. We were like his guinea pigs. We were one of his first groups to be trained by him, I think. I'm not quite sure. Anyway, so he was young, we were all excited. My teacher, so my former teacher, then said, because I want you guys to do more for our next recital, because you're great and you're doing a great job every single show. I think she told that to every single group, by the way. She said that our new teacher is going to focus on like technique and bar. So we did a lot of bar classes, and we really watched out and looked out for a posture. I thought it was great at the beginning. I had so much fun because I thought, okay, yeah, next time we can do more, and we're gonna be even better. And because I wasn't dancing like very classically for at least 6 years by then, I think. Obviously my technique wasn't the best anymore. So, you know, he corrected us, and it was great in the beginning. We all loved him. And I don't know what happened. Somewhere along the way, I didn't go to class anymore with that much enthusiasm, because I thought sometimes the classes were really boring. We did the same thing with the same music every single day. I also sort of felt a distance developing between me and the other girls in the group, because my other teacher was strict. And this guy wasn't really. And I don't think he was able to handle girls in puberty at like, I don't know, 14, 15 years old that well, which is totally understandable. It's hard work. Okay, teenagers are horrible. Classes weren't as focused anymore. Girls started laughing all the time and we weren't as concentrated anymore, and I didn't see any progress. I felt frustrated because I was like, can we just dance and not wait until we can actually count 5, 6, 7, 8? Because everyone is laughing and everyone is having a conversation and chatting. I was annoyed by this. As much as I had my fun in breaks, I wanted to dance. I wanted to, you know, get better. And I stopped being supportive, you know. After every single lesson we would clap, and that was nice when we would do that. But I would be sometimes annoyed because everyone was laughing all the time. I was also going through some stuff at home and school wasn't that great, and I was having a hard time with my friends at the time, and I was just annoyed. I wanted to enjoy my happy place and then be, you know, be active. Things got weird with this teacher. We started with bar, and I remember him correcting a couple of girls and me as well, which I was thankful for. And then after a couple of weeks, I started noticing that he corrected me a lot more than the others. And I was like, okay, that's fine. Also, by the way, because I was so focused on myself at the time, I maybe have a wrong conception of it all, but I remember very clearly that he would go around and look at everybody and he would correct me all the time. And I was like, okay, yeah, maybe he sees a bit of like potential, I guess. And he sees that I'm enthusiastic, that I want to be better. And he corrects me because he has to. And correction is important, okay? Correction is always, always good when it comes to ballet. But I felt mocked after weeks because he stopped correcting the other girls as much and really focused heavily on me. And I thought, okay, fine, this is fine. Again, I was under the impression, okay, he's doing that because I want to be better and he wants me to be better. I was like, okay, I'm just accepting that. I started being very insecure about everything because of my body image. I had braces at the time and also my acne, and I was very insecure about my body acne. So every time before class, I would try to get like leotards that would conceal it. I was so insecure about it. I was in so much pain mentally because I just hated looking at myself, and I remember how my stomach felt whenever I had to lift my legs, and I hated it so much. So every single lesson, it would just be about, I am too fat, I need to lose weight, and I am ugly, and look at my body acne, it's horrible. And that was what I was then focused on. I was focused on that before, but it got really bad at that time, especially because ballet wasn't as fun anymore. Because I felt weird. I felt like this teacher wasn't, I don't know, I didn't feel good when I was around that teacher. And I thought that was crazy and I was being dramatic and I should just suck it up because, you know, it's ballet and it's training and it's good and I love it. It's not gonna change. So we had him for, I think, a couple months before we started rehearsing for another recital. That would be in February of 2018. He did the choreography for my group, and I actually really loved that choreography. I thought it was one of the most beautiful choreographies I ever got to dance. In September of 2017, I got a call from my ballet teacher, and she asked me for my number the previous week. She said there was going to be rehearsals next Saturday, and I will figure something out before that, and I need to have your number. I need to call you. And I was like, why? She was like, you know, we're rehearsing for next recital. If you want to do more, you can do more. And I was like, yes, absolutely, I want to do more. And I got this call from an unknown number. I was like, hello? And my ballet teacher said, hi, this is blah, blah, and I wanted to ask you to come in for rehearsals next Saturday. Yeah, sure, just give me the information. So the next Saturday, I would come into the studio. There was a bunch of people, and the people that I know would be our main characters for the next show. I was familiar with them. I knew their names because I was always like, oh my god, the main parts. I was a bit scared, you know, I was 15 and everyone was an adult at least. I think the youngest of them was in her late 20s, I think. I'm not quite sure. So I was the youngest. I think it was 7 main characters or 8 principals for that recital. And there were a bunch of other dancers from different groups that would be part of that last dance, because it turned out that we actually started rehearsing the last like big epic dance and choreography for the recital on that day, and I was supposed to go into first line. I was like, what? They already had a rehearsal, they already knew that dance, and I was like, sure, let's just do this. It was intimidating in the beginning, but it was so much fun. It was such a fun dance. I loved that choreography, and it was really great. I loved it so much. After that rehearsal, I was asked to stay behind, and then we had this talk with the other main characters, and my teacher said, you are the main characters for the recital, and this is your character. I was thrilled. I couldn't stop smiling. I was intimidated, but I was so happy. It was everything. I was so happy. And then she told us what kind of story we would tell, and it was a very fun story. It was just about like sea creatures going to London. It was really weird. I'm not gonna go into detail about this, but it was so much fun. I was supposed to be the pearl. There was a jellyfish, and there was like a rainbow fish, and there was a crab. So, you know, we were all sea creatures and I was the pearl. It was so much fun. The one thing that I was not sure about, okay, how am I gonna tell my group? Because, as I said, I was very aware that I was bragging as a kid, and I didn't want to go into next rehearsals with my group and say, look at me, I'm a main character in the next performance, woohoo! I was sort of the guinea pig, which I later realized. My teacher knew that the main characters, who were the main characters all along, that they wouldn't be part of the next recital, and she wanted to kind of introduce like a new generation of dancers who would tell the different stories. And I was the first one she wanted to try it out with. It never got to that point later, but we're gonna come to that. I think for the first like 3 weeks I didn't tell my group. My teacher in the end told my group. It was very weird, and I'm not happy with how it happened, but until that point I already started practicing with like kids, like the group that would be the small pearls. It was always so cute. So I would be there dancing in front of them so they would be able to know what to do, because they were so small. I think they were around 6 or 7 or 8. They were lovely. They were so cute. So I started those rehearsals on the weekends, but I didn't tell anyone. And then my teacher said, okay, Victoria, gonna have to stay behind for dress rehearsals. Some girls asked, oh my god, this early? We're gonna get our costumes this early? Because usually we got our costumes like last minute. It was very stressful, but it was also fun. It was part of the thrill of the recitals. And then my teacher says, no, the main characters are gonna get their costumes first. And they looked at me, and they looked at my teacher, and they were like, you're a main character? And I was like, yeah. I can't really remember that moment that well anymore, but I felt awful. I just felt like I don't want anything to change in my group. And I never thought of them as like envious or jealous. I just knew that it was a possibility, because if that happened to me, like if I saw someone dancing a main part and something that I always wanted to do, I would have been, you know, sad, but you know, they were happy for me. At least that's what I thought. So rehearsals continued, and the distance between me and the current instructor grew more and more. He started putting me to the side instead of the middle, and he changed choreography a bunch of times. I remember so vividly, like the last part of our choreography, we had to dance in a circle, and I was the head of the circle in the beginning, so in the middle and the front, and then one time he just put me to the side, so I was barely visible at all, and then he put other girls there, and I guess it just didn't work, and then he put me back, but like very reluctantly. I remember him saying like, okay, then we have to do it the different way, Victoria, go back to the middle, and I was like, okay, Jesus, what the hell? So a couple things happened that just, you know, I just thought, okay. The performance happened. It was the best thing that ever happened to me. It was so much fun. We had 2 performances on the same day, and that was it. We never did like every week 1 or like 5 performances. We had a maximum of 2 performances, and that was it. But it was amazing. This day was one of the most stressful days of my life and one of the most exhausting days, but it was so much fun. Our rehearsals in theater, and I loved the theater so much, and being on stage so multiple times was just amazing. The sad thing was that whenever we were in a theater, we always had like a room to dress ourselves and to get ready as a group. And I was with the principals now. I wasn't with my group anymore. I had that bonding experience with the principals then, but not with my group. And I think that really did a lot. That just pushes you together, and it ties you together, and having that experience, those 3 days in the theater, so 2 rehearsals and then 1 big recital, it's just so much fun. And as a group, to do that with other people, it was the best thing. And as much as I loved the principals, I loved them dearly. I am so thankful to them because they supported me so much, and they welcomed me even though I was so young and very insecure, but I loved them. I still do. And I wish I had contact to them again, because they taught me a lot. They respected me and never treated me differently. And as much as I loved those, I loved the girls in my group. I'm gonna start crying. I loved those girls so much. And that is why the next couple of things that happened were so heartbreaking. Throughout the rehearsals and throughout the recital, I had a lot of fun. I don't know, it was the best thing and the highlight of my life until so far, even though it was such a small thing, but it was the best thing for me ever. I was so happy. I wish I had enjoyed that moment more, because I remember, you know, being in dress rehearsals, I told myself, okay, I'm gonna lose so much weight now, and I definitely got more fit. That was like the fittest I've ever been, because I danced 4 days a week and I did training at home and started working on my flexibility and everything. I was fit, but I was still so hateful towards my body. I hated it. I was so insecure about my acne, and I wish I had enjoyed that moment more and not focus on my body, but luckily it was so much fun to dance. I think I had more joy than worry about my body or anything. So that was, I think, good. And it's funny because, or it's actually rather sad, because everything went to shit afterwards. Not only with ballet, but in my life in general and in my relationship with a lot of people. I felt out of place in my group after the performance. Whenever I came into rehearsals, I noticed that distance growing more and more and more. Also because they became so close with our teacher, and I felt more and more resented by him. And then after a while, he didn't look at me anymore. He didn't care about me anymore that much, which I guess is fine. I don't know. But I remember we just finished our second performance that day. We were all done, and I was standing in front of the dressing room with my sister because we wanted to give her a present. So I was waiting, and my current teacher from my group stood next to me, and then all the principals came out, and I remember him hugging everyone. Every single one. He hugged everyone, said, "Congratulations, you were great," and he didn't hug me. And that was so weird, because then he realized that he didn't, and then he's like, "Oh yeah, come on." Like, I remember that so vividly. I was like, you deliberately forgot about me, realized that this was a shitty move, and then hugged me like reluctantly, and they were like, "Oh yeah, come here." He didn't say that I was great, I don't think so. He never complimented me ever. Ever since then, I felt really weird whenever I came to class. I stopped going to classes more often because I just didn't feel comfortable. I was told by my old teacher, so the one that I really loved, that one that trusted me with a main part, she told me that he would leave school and he would go to a different dancing school and instruct different groups. And I'm sorry, but I was happy about it. I was relieved. I wanted to be trained by my favorite teacher again, and I wanted him to go, because I didn't think about changing groups because I loved my group so much, and I wanted to stay with them and keep dancing with them and having fun together. But that fun never happened again. I don't know, this was kind of like a blur, because 2018 I started developing very, very bad eating habits. I started drinking a lot of water and tried to not eat on the day, and then I would binge at night. I would have like horrible rituals where I would drink like apple cider vinegar and then lots of water with it, so diluted apple cider vinegar, which was disgusting and almost made me barf. But I did it because people said it's good for your skin and it's good for your body and your metabolism. I would take cold showers and do all those horrible things, like these hacks on how to lose weight and how to, you know, be healthier, and it made me more and more sick. And throughout that time, ballet became more and more triggering. So after every single lesson, I would be reminded, okay, do not eat anything now, and you're fat and you're horrible and you're ugly and you could be so beautiful, you could be so great, but you're not good enough. So my instructor didn't leave. He stayed for another couple months, for at least I think 6. And I felt more and more horrible. I didn't go to classes regularly. I wasn't comfortable with the girls in my group. I wasn't comfortable with the teacher. And I think in summer of 2019, I was at a breaking point. I've gone to class. I was standing in front of the bar. I started realizing that my happy place became my trigger for my eating disorder, became my trigger for horrible thoughts running through my head, and shouting and being so loud and being self-destructive and just reminding me of how horrible I am and how big I am and how I'm never going to be good enough, blah, blah. And that became apparent in that one moment, and I was standing in front of the bar and I was looking at myself, and I realized this place used to make me so happy. I've made a few of my favorite memories in this place, and now it's like a nightmare. I never experienced a panic attack until that point. I was struggling with my mental health before that. I was heavily struggling with anxiety ever since I was a kid, but I never had a panic attack, and I started panicking. I started shaking. I started being frozen, like my face was frozen. I couldn't breathe as well, and I was out. I was dissociating. And we were supposed to do our next like bar choreography, and we had to step into the side, and one of my friends saw me, and she looked into my eyes, and she saw that I was struggling, and she asked me, hey, are you okay? You know, we were whispering, hey, are you okay, what's up? And I couldn't talk. I was like I think shrugging with my arms. I couldn't say anything, and I just turned around looking at my instructor, because we had to do our left side now. She asked me once again, like, is everything okay? Should I do something? I was trying to shrug her off. She only meant well. I'm so thankful to her that she did that. But I was just waiting for him to count down. I was just waiting, just do something. I don't want to be in this moment anymore. I need distraction. Just distract me and put on the music and just let's go. And he didn't. And he waited. I was looking down. I was trying not to cry. He asked, are you finally ready? Like in such an awful voice. I hate it every time I think about it. And I was obviously distressed. I don't know how he did not see that. I believe he did see it. I was looking down. I was just waiting for him to finally put on the fucking music. He waited until I raised my head and said, yeah. And that's when he turned on the music. He counted down, and the girl started dancing. I was frozen. I went to him. God, he was such an asshole. I went to him and said, I said his name and said, I need to go. And he was like, yeah. He didn't even say like, are you okay? Should I do something? Because I had tears in my eyes already. I was shaking. I was distraught. He was like, yeah, go. I came into the dressing room and I started bawling my eyes out. God, it was such a sad memory, because I was just sitting there for 5 minutes and just crying until 2 of my friends came in. I don't know if the teacher asked them to check on me. No idea, and asked me what was wrong, and I told them while I was sobbing, just out of control. I was cold all over, I was shivering, I was having trouble breathing, and I was sobbing, and it was just really bad. I later only realized that it was a panic attack. I didn't even realize it at that moment. What made me convinced that this teacher didn't care for me at all and couldn't have cared less about me was when I was obviously distraught. You can see when someone has been crying, and I have been sobbing at the time for at least 20 minutes. And I was walking by him, and I kind of expected him, I don't know, to ask me if I was okay. He looked at me and looked on. He didn't care. I mean, I didn't like him before, so I wasn't that hurt by it, but that was the moment when I realized, okay, this guy really hates me. So I don't know what I did. I don't know what I did to make him feel like he could treat me that way. I have no idea, but I know that he did not like me. This is all just speculation, but I feel like he thought that he had to make me humble. Maybe he thought that I was an arrogant girl who thought that she was better than everyone and wanted to brag all the time, and he wanted to show everyone, hey, listen, I'm here for everyone is equal, and there's no one better than someone else. Maybe he thought that he had to get me from my high horse that never existed in the first place. I have no idea. I don't remember ever insulting him. I don't know. Whatever. That was the last time I went to class with him. That was the last time I went to see the girls, I think. I don't think I ever went back. Before that, I also thought about changing groups because I didn't have fun dancing anymore. I didn't like him. He didn't like me, so why would I stay? And my sister was still dancing at the school, and she was in a dancing group on Thursdays. I was reluctant to go to that group because I loved the girls so much that I was dancing with, but at that point I realized that would never be the same again. In 2019, in the beginning, I discovered intermittent fasting, where you would like not eat for a specific amount of hours and then eat for another specific amount of hours. And I lost weight through that and had more destructive thoughts about food and felt more and more like a victor whenever I wouldn't eat, and more and more like a failure when I would. Every day I would wake up, think about food, and that would stay with me until I fell asleep. Until the summer of 2019, I was in class with a friend, and I told her about, you know, my eating habits and what I think about the entire day, because I think we talked about like body image. And I told her what I do and what I think every day, and she was like, Vicky, that's not really normal. And I was like, no, of course that's normal. I mean, everyone who's not fine or happy with their body, they think that way. And she was like, I don't think that way, and I'm not okay with my body, or I don't like my body that much, but I don't do that, or I don't think that. I don't want to go into specific detail about my thoughts. And the fact was that I never realized that I was sick because you didn't see it. The first thing that you need to know about eating disorders is that you can't see it on someone's body. You can't tell if someone has an eating disorder based on what their body looks like. And I knew that, but for some reason I did that. For some reason I believed that I'm thinking about food the entire day. I hate food, I hate eating, but I do it all the time. I feel like a victor when I starve myself, I feel like a failure when I eat, and I regret eating, and I would try to exercise as much as I can, but exercising only for the purpose of becoming skinny, and you know, I would have such destructive thoughts. I had all the symptoms, I had all these thoughts, but I thought, yeah, but I'm okay. I wasn't bulimic, I wasn't purging, even though I thought about it constantly. The only reason why I didn't do it was because I had braces and they were expensive and I wanted to have nice teeth, and that was the only reason why I didn't purge. But I said, I'm not actively bulimic, I'm not anorexic because I still eat and I don't starve myself to a point where I need to go somewhere or where I get like physically sick. Like I'm fine, I'm not struggling with anything. It's like atypical anorexia. You have all these thoughts that, I guess anorexic people, it sounds horrible when I say that like that. I don't know. I feel like it sounds so impersonal. You have all these thoughts that they deal with, but there's part of you that is stopping you from going to that point. When I realized that, oh, I'm struggling with this, I felt like a failure, or my eating disorder told me that I was a failure at my eating disorder because I wasn't starving myself the entire day. I wasn't pretty or skinny enough for acting, I wasn't good enough for dancing, I wasn't good enough for anything, and I wasn't good enough at my eating disorder. That's what that side of my brain tells me, or told me, and you know, that's just not fun. So ballet continued to be that triggering point, and since it wasn't fun anymore, I didn't go as much, and I felt like there was now distance growing between me and my teacher. The teacher that I loved dearly, that I held in high regards, that the one that gave me my main role, because back then I still wanted to be an actress. I thought, you know, this is like the first time someone's trusting me with something as big as this, and I trusted her, and I believed her to be one of the people that I can confide in and rely on. I was hearing stuff from another girl that I danced with, and she told me that my teacher would say that me and my sister were distancing ourselves from the others, and we don't come into practice anymore, and you know, we're not active anymore. And I was like, okay, yeah. Fun thing though, no one ever asked why. It's always easy to talk about people behind their backs and be like, oh, they're doing that and they're doing this, and judging them, instead of asking yourself, why aren't they coming in anymore? So there are two more things that happened with ballet. In my senior year, I was on a school trip. At that time, I was separated again from group of friends. I would never go back into groups in school anymore. I would be like a jumper. I would say that I was a jumper. I was like good with almost everyone and I could talk to almost everyone, but I was never part of a group again. And in school, that's something that, as much as I loved being able to talk to everyone, it's pretty lonely. So I started my senior year, I was pretty much alone. On that trip to England, I bonded with a couple people, and I also bonded with someone that I never thought I would, you know, be friends with. He's now one of my best friends. And he was in a relationship with one of the girls from my former group, so the girls that I loved so much. We talked about that because, you know, it was like, hey, yeah, I know your girlfriend. And he was like, yeah, I know. And he said, I know a couple of things about you because of it. And I was like, what do you know about me? And he was like, well, not really about you, but I know what other girls said. And I was like, what did girls say? When it was announced that I got a main part, that some of the girls were really angry. And they were like, why did she get a main part? I've been here before her. I danced at the school since I was 3 years old. Like, why did she get a main part? And I never noticed that any of them wanted to do more than they were already doing. So I was really weirded out. I can't remember everything anymore, but there was something along the way of like, oh yeah, she's bragging, and of course she would, you know, push herself to the forefront and stuff. And I don't know, everyone was acting like they were so happy for me. I don't hold a grudge against them. There's no need to forgive because there is nothing to forgive. I think I would have acted a bit in the same way if someone else got a main part and I didn't. I think it was just, you know, the disappointment in the beginning. So after that school trip, I found out new facts, which was great, I guess. I think it was winter of 2019, where life was just hard on me and I was struggling immensely with my eating disorder because of the like, I guess, success of my intermittent fasting in the first half of that year, I wanted to get that back. I tried desperately to do it again and I couldn't, because I remember, I didn't say that before, but I remember feeling delirious at school, and I would drink a liter of water before going to school, and I was feeling horrible when it came to, like, I don't know, 10:40, I think that's when we had a 5-minute break and everyone got their lunch out, and I was starving. I felt horrible. I was looking at these people, I was looking at them and being like, I wish I could eat now, I wish I could eat, but I can't. So I tried other things, but it never worked, and I'm not gonna go into detail because that's kind of a blur that whole time. I mean, it was in my senior year and I was alone most of the time. I felt horrible. Things at home started to fall apart and we didn't know where to go because we would move the next year and we didn't have any idea on how to go on, and it was a lot of things, and ballet became, again, my trigger. There was one occasion that really, like, kind of broke me. The first one was the panic attack, but this is the second one. I was, again, very frustrated. I was going to training maybe every 3 weeks. And this time I decided, okay, I'm going to tell my teacher that I need to quit. I talked to myself weeks before then and said, you can't do this anymore. This is no longer fun. I was devastated because this, again, was my first love and I had to quit. So after training, I went up to her and I said, I need to talk to you. And I wanted to stay strong. I knew that this would be difficult, but I wanted to stay strong. I didn't want to cry, but the second I started talking, I started bawling. I started crying and I talked to that person that I trusted so much, and I was devastated, and I told her that I need to quit and that I don't think I can do this anymore. And I don't know, I expected her to hug me and say, I'm so sorry, I didn't know, and I'm so sad that you're leaving and I don't want you to go. And just, you know, I was waiting for her to comfort me and she didn't. I guess she was empathetic. I felt like she was very cold at that moment because I was sobbing. It fits her personality. I don't know why I ever thought that I would get a hug. But after our performance in 2018, I felt like we were so tight-knit and so we were friends. I thought we were friends. And it turned out we weren't. Because the second I stopped coming to rehearsals regularly, she didn't feel the same way about me anymore. And I was devastated because I knew that the only reason why I couldn't dance anymore was because of myself, and I was already not feeling good enough. And then I was the one who stopped enjoying anything. At that time, I didn't enjoy anything anymore. I was depressed. And that was just a horrible moment because I felt so betrayed, even though I don't know if I had any right to that, but I already felt alone at school. I felt left alone by her as well. And that's when I realized you really thought differently about that person and you didn't really know what kind of person she is. Took another break after that encounter, and then I went back to training, but only a couple times, and that's when exams started happening, and then the pandemic hit. A few months later, the school was closed indefinitely. When the pandemic hit, I was sick of school. I ditched so much. I already started ditching a lot in junior year, so in like 11th grade, but I ditched every single week in senior year. I didn't want to see anyone. I wanted to get out of school as soon as possible. I wanted to get out of the city as soon as possible because there were so many things that were just bad and that I hated and I needed to get out. So when the pandemic hit and it was told, yeah, you don't have school anymore, I was excited. I ditched my last day of school. I wish I hadn't, but it was Friday and I didn't want to go to school. I was depressed. I felt like, no, I'm not going. I was making excuses, saying I was sick. I was sick mentally, yes, but I wasn't like ill. I didn't have anything. I lied. And I was sitting in the living room with my mom when it was announced that the schools would close and classes would stop. And I was like, damn, that was my last day of school ever. And I wasn't even there. The first day, so the Monday of our lockdown, it was March 16th, and I had a therapy session. I was, at that time on that day, so excited because I thought, okay, I never have to go back to school again. Woohoo, so happy. Just finals, and then I can leave and see no one ever again. That therapy session lasted 30 minutes, and she advised me to go into a clinic. And I was like, now? The pandemic just, we're on lockdown. COVID is everywhere. I can't just go. I'm having finals next month and then I'm moving in summer. I can't go into a clinic. And she's like, well, it's the best thing for someone who's struggling with an eating disorder. I was like, no, not doing that. I'm gonna be fine. I was very like hopeful on that day. In the first 2 weeks of the lockdown, I was so happy. I think it was also the most flexible I ever was. I still felt fat. I still felt horrible. I wanted to change everything about my body, but you know, I was working out. I was doing my stretching routine for like every day for a week, and I was seeing crazy results the first time in my life, and I was so happy. And 2 weeks after that first and only therapy session, I had my first depressive episode, and I was so miserable. I remember not being able to study for my finals because I just couldn't. I was paralyzed. I didn't feel anything anymore. I was numb. I was talking to my mom and I said, I don't know what's happening. I don't feel anything anymore. And she was like, I think you're depressed. And I knew what my mom meant with that. And I was like, okay, I always identified with like an anxiety diagnosis. And I know that I have trouble with food. But depression? No, I'm not depressed. This cannot be. I actually do not know how I got through finals. I don't know. I was miserable. I was sad, but somehow I still did it. And when finals ended, I think in May, I think that was the worst time, like when summer started. That was when I was very, very deep into my eating disorder. I remember setting a like timer for how many hours I haven't eaten anything. And I remember taking screenshots of them and being so happy about it and feeling great, cutting out more and more food. And I didn't do that for long, but I remember feeling more and more exhausted. I didn't have energy anymore. I was still like struggling with my depression. The biggest trigger that sent me into that spiral was my prom dress arriving. We didn't even know if we would have a prom, but my prom dress arrived and I put it on and I felt awful and so ugly. And I was like, I'm never gonna eat anything ever again. So that's when I started, you know, horrible thoughts and tried and failed to, you know, not eat. And I was just in such a bad place. Because of the pandemic, I couldn't talk to anyone really. I talked to my mom a bit about it, but I tried to hide it as much as possible. And I remember going to sleep and thinking, God, this day was so awful and exhausting. How the hell am I going to do that tomorrow? I woke up with a feeling, I just need to survive today. And then I went to bed with a feeling, I survived today, but at what cost? I feel horrible. How the hell am I supposed to do this for the rest of my life? That was like crying out, that side of me that said, this is dangerous, stop doing it. You're sick, you need to get help. But my eating disorder was telling me, you have to do this. You have to do this. Because obviously there was no one telling me to do this other than my eating disorder. Luckily, a month later, like I think the lockdown was lifted a bit and we were able to hang out again with a couple of friends. And I reconnected with a lot of people that I have lost touch with before. And it was 1 month before I moved that I found myself with the best people around me, with the people that I love like unconditionally, with the people that I hope love me as well, or that I feel loved by. And I found those in that time. And I moved 1 month later. I was happy to move. I was relieved. I wanted to leave that city, and I had to. And we were so lucky with the house that we got now and where we live right now, and I'm so happy. But the distance between me and my friends is 600 kilometers. It's not even that big. It's not that much, but considering the fact that we were all together before, we were all at school before, we saw each other almost every day, and I never enjoyed that time with them. That's what makes me so sad, because I was so sick at that time. God, I need to stop. This is embarrassing. I was so miserable at the time that I couldn't enjoy my graduation, and the thing that I was so excited for my entire life, I couldn't enjoy it. I didn't take pictures with my family on my graduation day, and I'm so happy that I had this month with the people that I love so much. I'm so happy about it, and I still see them and I still have contact with them, but of course it's not the same anymore. It's crazy how much life changes after high school ends. And we're all in different places, in different stages in our lives right now. And yeah, it is what it is. And I do not regret moving at all. But I miss them. I miss them terribly. That also gives me more reason to go back into the city and see it more often. And I definitely think better about it now. And I do not want to say that I regret anything. But I will say that I am just sorry for 2020 me. Because There are things that I will never get back, and I wish I had enjoyed that more. And now, coming back to ballet a bit, our school closed, there's no one dancing there anymore. Having to quit ballet the way that I did, and saying goodbye to it. Damn, I thought I would be able to talk about it more, or better. It just breaks my heart, because it was my first love, and I loved the people there, and I loved the feeling of dancing, and not realizing that I was struggling made it so much worse, and that getting worse, and that love that became so toxic. It's like a really bad relationship. It's like something that starts so beautifully, and then a lot of things happen and you don't even realize that they're happening, and suddenly you're in a toxic relationship that you can't get out of. And then for a long time, and for me the past 2 years felt like a long time, I felt like I was never able to dance again because I lost so many things through that. And it reminds me of a time where a lot of shitty things happened in my life. It will never be the same again, which is, I've accepted it. But I feel like I'm mourning that time. And only this year, after I was able to, you know, I was deeply depressed in 2021 and in 2020, and I had to deal with that first. But now that I'm more stable, I'm able to think about that time and mourn it, because I mourn the time that I didn't enjoy with my friends. I'm mourning that time of dancing and not realizing that I was struggling with something that was bigger than just, oh, I want to be skinny. I'm not mad at my old self at all. I didn't know, but it just breaks my heart in many ways because I miss it so much and I will never get it back. I'm so happy that I've made the decision to dance again because I want to do it. I need something and I need it in my life. I've realized that. But there's just, as much as there's love, there's a lot of pain. And if you want, I can take you guys with me, and I feel like I need you guys with me on this sort of, I guess it's a bit of a journey. I will never ever do that professionally. It's just a hobby. I just need to do it again. But taking that step is gonna be so difficult because, as I just said, my heart, I don't think, has really recovered from that. I don't know. I'm a person who feels a lot, who's very emotional. I've just realized, like, this year how sad this whole thing really was for me. Because from the outside, it was just a hobby. But the feelings I felt whenever I danced, and the love I had for it, and the love I had for the people that I danced with, and they gave me so much. And the whole thing gave me so much. And not having that, I think, is an experience that sadly you make with becoming an adult, getting older, moving away, not having the things anymore that you had. But I just wished I've had 2 more years of dancing that were great, and saying goodbye would have been horrible at any time. But saying goodbye the way I did, I think that is what makes me just really sad. Ballet is always gonna be my first love. It always connects me to my childhood, it always connects me to me, and I have a lot of catching up to do with that kid, because there's a lot of things that I still haven't worked through, but I think I'm ready now to do that. I'm scared to confront my eating disorder, and I'm scared to start dancing again, and scared to like just work out again and see my body surrounded by mirrors, and I'm scared of that. But as I said in my vlog, my excitement to dance again and the joy that I felt whenever I dance is bigger now than the fear. Now, apart from the fact that I look horrible right now and that I ugly cried in the video, I thought that would be actually easier, to be honest, but I guess it just still hits me hard because there was just so much happening and that I just never realized. It's nothing that I will never get over, but it's a grieving process that I think every single human goes through, and that I'm currently going through, and that's okay. Listen, guys, I am very hopeful. I've been so happy the past week, ever since I started like training again, like on my own in my room. I am so hopeful. And I'm so excited to go back to dancing, but there will always be a bit of, you know, pain when it comes to it. I don't know, I probably forgot about a million things that I actually wanted to say. Now you know that story. I wanted to tell it. I don't want to make this outro any longer than it has to. I think I said enough, and you will think whatever you think. This was my sort of story with ballet and my eating disorder, and it's not done. There's like a next chapter that is starting now. When, let's say, a book. I'm gonna start a new book. I think I've closed that book, and I think I'm like ready to move on, I guess, and not put it past me, because I'm not that kind of person. I'm a person, I keep everything and I deal with it, but I remember a lot of things, and I don't ever want to say, yeah, but it'd be so much easier if I didn't feel that way. Bad experiences, negative experiences, or sad experiences also make me into the person I am today. And as much as they hurt when I think about it, I'm also reminded that I'm in a better place now. I'm also reminded of how strong I actually am, and that I will continue to work on myself, because I sort of owe it to myself, and I owe it to the person that I was 2 years ago. I owe it to the person that I was when I was 14, and I owe it to the child that loved dancing and that was able to do the things that she loved without obsessing over not being good enough. I feel like I also needed to remind myself to stay strong and to do this the right way, because my eating disorder thoughts are still there. I didn't act on them the past 2 years, which I'm really, really proud of. And I promised myself to never do that again. It's a very slippery slope. It's very easy to listen to that voice and to do what it says. I'm not gonna do that. Now, I think also through this video, just holding myself accountable. I told my mom, and I told some of my friends, and I told my therapist, and they're my support system, but I want me to be part of that support system and be able to rely on me and just be able to, okay, say, yeah, I've been through that, and we'll keep going forward and upward. I don't know. There are things that I probably forgot. This was a very long video, guys. So long. I don't even know if I'm able to edit it. Thank you so much for watching. I think this was the most personal and most vulnerable video I've ever filmed, and please stay positive in the comments, and you know, there's always a human behind a video. Just, you know, be positive and be nice. You never know what someone's going through. I'm gonna go. Again, thank you so much for watching. Thank you for being part of this little community that I treasure every single day. I hope you have a wonderful day, and I'll hopefully see you in my next video, which will be more positive and which will not be will not include me crying. Okay, till my next video. Bye. I don't know how to do the bye without it being weird. Just bye, guys.